up on reading, and then we learn some writing, and sometimes that reading and writing goes together. And when you go to school, it's just the opposite, right? When you go to school, again, the reading and writing is matched. They teach you how to write. Sometimes I wonder why, because none of our kids write anymore, right? They all use digital something. But, and they learn to read. We teach them to read because that's very important for them to be able to do that. Maybe, I don't know about you, maybe it's a state requirement to have a speech class in high school, right? Public speaking. So most kids have one class in speaking, but nobody has a class in listening. And it's so critical to communication. So when I first created this workshop, I thought it was a good idea, and a lot of times the reaction I get from folks who are looking for in-service and other presentations is, wow, what a good idea. Listening and how to respond. So that's what I'm doing here today. Many things will be repeated today because they need to be repeated, and they are valuable tools. So I'm going to start off with a little quick tips. We all know that listening is visual as well as auditory. So if I'm standing up here and talking to you like this, you will tend to listen to me less than if I talk to you like this and I'm excited about what I'm talking about. And when you talk to someone, and again, this goes back to awareness, it's really important to look at the person who's speaking, because a lot of times they can give you a lot of clues. The more we listen intently, there may be certain statements they make that have nothing really to do with the conversation, but they can actually tell you something that's going on in that person's life. I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine last week. I took her out for her birthday, and in the middle of the conversation, she said, I wish I had someone to look forward to seeing. It really didn't have anything to do with anything that was going on, but it made me keenly aware of how lonely she was feeling in that moment. So these types of non-verbal or verbal clues are something we will be better teachers, better parents, better friends if we can recognize them. Again, some words are more important than others. When we listen to people talk, we're looking for certain facts, and sometimes we can get lost on everything else that's thrown out there. Maybe the way they speak, or how they go on and on and on about a subject. So it's up to us to key in on what that person's really trying to say. We as listeners need to do that. It's our responsibility. I'm all about accountability. Each of us is accountable for what goes into our brain and what choices we make. Sometimes we only hear what we want to hear. And that happens a lot because we all have very strong ideas and opinions and viewpoints. And so sometimes when we're talking to someone, all we hear is that they disagree with me. And so you shut out everything else that they say, because what you want to hear is that they agree. This is one of the toughest times in communicating, is when you have conflict resolution, which is a whole other workshop. But communicating is a big, big part of that. Because when we turn people out, tune them out because they're not agreeing with us, then we're really not open to grow. I have a really hard time watching the news and reading the news because I don't care where it's coming from. It all seems very biased to me. And it can be on either side of the spectrum. So I read a magazine, and I don't get any bonus for you subscribing, but I read a magazine called The Week magazine. Does anybody here read that? Well, it's really fantastic. And what I really like about it is that it gives me the perspective of things going on in the United States from the right and the left, from the conservative and the liberal. So even though I may be reading something that I may not agree with, it makes me understand where people are coming from. And that's the value of listening to things that you may not want to hear. It gives you a greater understanding. Look, the rest of the world isn't like you, and you need to live in that world. So the more you understand who the people are around you, the better you will get along with them. One of the things that I see a lot in communication is that many people feel that if they accept someone, they're agreeing with them. And that is not true. But it keeps a lot of us from accepting other people who have different views than us. You can accept where someone's coming from, or what their viewpoint is, or how they see a situation. And this is particularly true when you're working on a team. It's okay to accept someone, and you don't have to agree. So know that difference between the two. They don't always go together. As humans, I think that we put the two together, and in doing that, we have much less acceptance because we kind of dig our heels in and say, well, I'm not going to agree with what they say. Well, that's fine, but you can accept that somebody has a difference of opinion. So I digress on that, because that's really important to me. And that leads right into judgments, preconceived notions. She doesn't have enough experience, so she doesn't know what she's talking about. He wrote this procedure, but he doesn't do the job. So automatic judgments, or it could be she wears green and that color looks horrible on her. You know, it could be anything. It doesn't always have to be serious. It's amazing sometimes, again, if you walk through your day and notice, do you ever turn away for someone because the way they're dressed, do they have a tattoo? You know, and you don't like tattoos, so you have a different feeling about them. Kids do it a lot. And we need to teach them by example that those judgments cloud the information that's being given to them. And because of that, you don't get the information that you need. So if I'm up here and you think it's really ridiculous for me to have these earrings, so you don't listen to what I have to say, you're going to miss out on some valuable information because you've made a judgment about who I am. Those are quick tips, and we'll probably be going over those again. This morning, I'm going to be talking about 5 different types of listening: informative, relationship, appreciative, critical, and discriminative. This is the most boring part of the presentation, but I think it's valuable. But I'll get it out of the way, and then we can get to more fun things as the day goes on. Different situations require different types of listening. We may listen to obtain information, improve a relationship, gain appreciation for something like music or dance, or engage in critical evaluation. Sometimes we're asked to do that. And so we have 4 types of listening. And the first one we're going to talk about is informative listening. And you might want to write down these different types of listening and maybe a key word so you will take that with you. The primary goal of informative listening is to understand what's being said, and most of what we do in life is informative listening. I know you're all doing informative listening this morning. you want your students to be utilizing informative listening. And the key to informative listening is what I say, what you hear. It's a two-way street. I want to make sure that I'm presenting it in a way that makes you understand. And when you do that in a classroom situation, you have your kids take tests, right? And that's how you know. So nobody has to raise their hand, but